Oh man, I've been looking forward to this podcast for some time now. Today's guest is in a category all by himself. He's performed all over the world and worked with top pop singers, creating effects for them and their touring show, such as Michael Jackson, Cher, Snoop Dogg, Missy Elliott, Reba McEntire, and so many more. He is not only known as a creator of original illusions, but he is in a category of himself, of a mega illusionist. He's made the space shuttle disappear, Tower Bridge, Taj Mahal. He's made them all vanish in front of live audiences. I could talk about him all day, but since he's here, let's all welcome Franz Harary. What's up, buddy?
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. You know what's interesting is to hear that the pop stars that you chose to list, because I've done hundreds, right? But listening to the ones that you chose to list sort of tells me who your audience is or who we're playing towards. So there's a little interesting, demographic study to start right off.
You know, there was a list of like 30, and I'm like, you know what? I'm picking out the ones that are my favorites, and
there you go.
I really did. So that's funny, man. But go ahead, let's start it off. Let's mention some others that I didn't. Can you name off more?
Mention others. Holy crap! Justin Bieber, Timberlake, Madonna, Stevie Wonder, Alice Cooper.
Wow.
Earth, Wind, and Fire. It depends on who you are. Depends on how old you are. Depends on what it means. Tiesto, they're so. Really depends on who you are, and that sort of. Those are the names I tend to pull out.
So Alice Cooper, the first thing that comes to my mind is the guillotine. Guillotine. Was that you?
So the guillotine was done by Randy, the amazing.
I do remember that now. Did I lose you?
Which is conceivable before you were born. And so by that time, Alice was already a big-time Magic fan. So we did a lot. We did 3 tours together. We did like 3 or 4 illusions per tour. And it was all, kind of next generation stuff at that time. But he was already, I can say that he already was as much as an illusionist as anybody else, that we would consider our contemporaries. Speaking of which, in that same vein, Missy Elliott has done, by last count, like 22 or 23 illusions, different original illusions that I've done for her because I've been working with her for so long. Every time she gets a gig, I get the call and it's like, all right, Franz, what are we doing this time? So I get to, I would hate for her to know that, but I get to experiment and develop a lot of new stuff on her concerts. And in the process, she's now done, arguably more illusions than most illusionists work in Vegas right now.
That is amazing. Wow.
When you think of magicians, you think of guys on stage making a living, branded as a magician. But the reality is, magic is such a nebulous art form that it easily bridges over into so many other disciplines and so many other formats. And even though you might not call it magic, it is in every respect what we do. And I think that's what's cool about what we do, because it makes it really universal.
So what was your start?
I got a magic set when I think I was 13 years old. And about the same time, Doug Henning was on television, and Doug Henning was really freaking cool. And playing with his magic set, I remember there was like a ball vase I was doing and a paddle trick. But I was just amazed how these really simple little toys, plastic toys, could fool my parents and fool my teachers. And I don't know what you were like as a 13-year-old. I was a major geek. And so suddenly have this power, it's wow, it's kind of life-changing. So I kept going and, buying more little tricks and very quickly trying to invent my own tricks. And again, I wanted to be Doug Henning. So I really was interested in big illusions. I had no idea how anything works. But I started getting hold of like old refrigerator boxes or, appliance cardboard boxes and trying to make my own illusions. And most of them failed. But little by little, I started having some success and figuring out, some of the psychologies, and in many cases I was reinventing the wheel. But with this process, I learned so much about human nature, and 14, 15, 16 years old, you know, but figuring out how people think. And I started discovering these formulas. And I'm sort of compressing my whole life for you here in a minute or two. But while I was going to school, I was studying music. Eventually, I went to Eastern Michigan and the University of Michigan on a music scholarship, but still inventing magic. So I convinced the head of the marching band, University of Michigan, to let me do magic for halftime shows. And again, I didn't know what I was doing, but I'm kind of making it up. And in the process, came up with a number of principles that allowed me to make people and objects appear and disappear in the center of a football field surrounded by, 100,000 people in the day.
Wow.
And by the way, football audiences are the worst in the world. They do not want to see magic. They just want you to get the hell off of the field and go on with the game. So I came up with these ways to work for halftime shows. Then I ended up doing stuff in the opera department and the theater, and I had these large groups with which I could experiment, and I came up with these formulas that I still use today. In fact, I sold many of these formulas, David Copperfield, other people, for doing large illusions. In 1984, Michael Jackson announced he was going out on the Victory Tour, so I sent a VHS tape to the record company of me making a car appear in the middle of a football field. And they took a chance on a 20-year-old, and I went out there. I met Jackson. We became friends instantly. I ended up doing all of the magic for him, for 26 years. But with that, with that relationship, it kind of opened up a whole music industry to me. And I ended up doing, design work for his sister, Janet, and, everybody, MC Hammer, and it just kept going all the way, up to today. So it's I've always had these two separate careers. One as a magician, performer, but then a second one as an illusion designer and producer. And sometimes those two cross over, but for the most part, they're two separate disciplines.
A 20-year-old college kid sending a tape to Michael Jackson. I can't imagine that any of your friends would say that was a good idea. That was just you're wasting your VHS tape. You're wasting postage.
Yeah, well, it's even more than that. I gave it to my agent at the time, and so every day I'm calling the agent. Any response? Any response? Any response? Nope, nothing. So finally, after about 2 months, the agent goes, "Look, man, I didn't even send the tape. Let's get real. You don't have a chance." I was so freaking crazy mad that I got rid of the agent. I resent the tape myself, and within about a week, I got a call.
Wow.
So
oh my goodness.
there's a whole other story,
Wow. Yeah. I can imagine. I can totally see that agent saying that there's no way. That's hitting the lottery right there, Franz.
And he just told me because I kept bugging him every day, and he didn't have the heart to tell me.
Wow. Wow.